there's a real responsibility to give those people a great evening of fun because they've spent a lot of money and a lot of time to get there. Some people, in many cases, a lot of sacrifices to be there. And so it's a lot of responsibility on one guy's shoulder to provide that entertainment and keep people laughing. So that's the only thing I dread right before I walk on stage is that there's a big responsibility and don't screw this up.
I've been a fan of yours for a long while. I'm not even going to lie.
Well, thanks.
Your specials always bring a good laugh from me. But you've worked with Comedy Central for quite a while now. But how did this special, come about? When did you start talking with them about making this your next special?
Sure. Yeah, this is my 11th special, and actually had an interim there with Comedy Central where we did one on NBC and two on Netflix. But now we made a deal with them for 3 more, and the first one was during the pandemic, and that was it was a nice attempt at a special, and for day and date when nobody could go anywhere and everybody was in masks sitting at tiny little cocktail tables and there was 100 people. It was great. But now we move back into the big arenas and it's just a lot more fun. Comedy Central, they want people that'll create ratings for them. And I have some great records there. And I think maybe I might not be their first choice in brand of entertainment, but I think they have some executives in there now who recognize that numbers are numbers and it doesn't matter where those numbers are coming from. So, the Daily Show doesn't have any politics that line up with whatever I do, but I don't try and pick a side. I try and do, going back all the way to comedians like Will Rogers and Bob Hope and Carson and Leno, where they made fun of whoever was in office and whatever was going on, but they didn't do it the way that comedians today do it. And that is usually what a guy does is, or a woman picks a side, starts picking on that other side, and it turns nasty. And then sometimes the comedy show turns into more of a pep rally and the jokes are gone. So I don't like picking on big groups of people. I think it's okay to make fun of the one guy that's in office. And when Trump was in office, I had a lot of fun with that. And now that Biden's in office, it's like, I think he's fair game. And I have the luxury of having had a lot of time on stage and a lot of fans have grown with me. So I have a really loyal fan base and they know what they're getting and they know they're not going to come in and hear something completely horrible. It's going to have some edge to it, but it's not going to be mean and nasty against anybody. And so I think that's why my 15 minutes has lasted all this time. So that's, I think Comedy Central knew that, and they knew I'd do a big number for them, and that's what we're hoping for on the 25th.
I haven't had the chance to see the new special, but I read about it and what it would be covering, and I
haven't seen it either. I'm going in for the final mix today. Actually, when we get done here, I'm heading over to the studio, and we've got our final mix down and final color correction and all that stuff. So I haven't seen it either.
Well, I'm excited for you to get to finish it, so then we can all see it.
Yeah,
but. From what I read, I love that it does, tackle a lot of these, a lot of modern culture in terms of comedy and politics. And, I'm curious, you mentioned that you have the fan base, but what is that like for you, finding that right balance in your comedy between something that is just edgy enough to get people laughing, but also not too far that it alienates anybody?
Sure. I used to say that comedy was the last form of free speech, but obviously in the last few years, that's been trod upon greatly. And so the free speech thing is there's just so many conflicts and with with how people handle that and how they interpret it. And it's, it seems to be there's a lot of it's free speech unless you say something that I don't like. And then you can't say that. So, well, that doesn't make any sense. So, again, I just try and do what I've always done, but it is a landmine right now that you have to traverse very carefully because even if you say you don't care, you still need to care because you can't say inflammatory things that really get people upset. But I think, I'm not Dave Chappelle, and he just, whether you agree or disagree or whatever, he's not stupid. He's doing comedy that gets attention and headlines and creates controversy. And, P.T. Barnum said any good, what do you say? What, any good press is good press. But was that P.T. Barnum? No, I don't remember. Anyway, any publicity is good publicity. Somebody look that up.
That's cool.
I think he's the one that said that. But I don't do that. I've always said, and as you probably were hinting at, I've always said that if you're offending, a tiny percentage, like 3 to 5% of the audience, that you're probably on the right track, because whatever it is that those people are upset about is what everybody else is laughing the hardest at. I think by the time if you're offending 40 or 60% of your audience, then clearly you don't care about your own future and you don't care about the audience. I care very much about those people who spent good hard-earned money, and I want them, as a business person, I want them to have fun there so that next time they'll bring back family and friends, and it just keeps growing. So I do approach it as an entertainer, as an artist, but also as a business person who, wants that business back. I want those people coming back and having fun. And again, I don't get nervous anymore when I go on stage. It's more trepidation of there's a real responsibility to give those people a great evening of fun, because they've spent a lot of money and a lot of time to get there. Some people, in many cases, a lot of sacrifices to be there. And so it's a lot of responsibility on one guy's shoulder to provide that entertainment and keep people laughing. So that's the only thing I dread right before I walk on stage, is that there's a big responsibility, and don't screw this up.
Well, I think you've done a wonderful job of navigating that throughout your career and continue to do so today. And so with that said, then obviously Walter, I've seen the trailer where he does look like Biden already. But how did you go about determining which of your other characters would be a part of this special alongside him? It's
a bit like a rock band. You go to see a rock band, there's a couple of hits that they better play or you're going to be upset. So the characters that I use in this special are the ones that have been the mainstays for decades. And but then I always try and come out with a new character or two that I think the audience will enjoy. And with this one, the two, Walter isn't Biden, but he pretends he's Biden. So it's not like I have a Biden dummy. It's Walter saying, I'm going to look like Biden because everybody for years has said I look like Biden. And so he puts on the sunglasses and he has the suit on, and the background is in the special is the Oval Office. So that's the new character, but he breaks character, and he and I have conversations, and I did that so he could still be Walter, but then he pretends to be Biden, which is stupid fun. And then the actual new character, again, I try and create things that people can relate to and respond to. And we all are stuck on our smart devices a little too much of the time. So I decided to embrace that. And during the pandemic, I created a new character. I also did Facebook Lives and YouTube Lives showing how I build the dummies myself, and came up with this new guy who's stuck on his smart device a little too much of the time, a younger guy. So there's a generation gap as well, because people are dealing with that with their own kids, or the kids with the parents on their devices too much. And the technical thing that I pat myself on the back for is this new guy. He actually has a phone, and during the show, he's, while I'm talking to him, he's typing on the phone. And then we had a naming contest from the fans, and some guy brilliantly named him Earl, but it's spelled URL. So that's the new guy in the show.
I love that. That's a clever way to get that in there. And so, you mentioned, having the live videos showing how you put it together, but what were some of the biggest, what was going through your mind in designing the look of Earl for this one?
So years ago, this was back in 2015, I came up with the idea of having an internet troll. And do I have a troll back here? I should get one. No. So when I was a kid, there was a certain design of troll that was really appealing to me. And that was the stereotypical troll. So I thought internet troll, and let's make him look like that. So sculpted that head, and then I didn't continue with that idea for whatever reason. And that was for the NBC special, and I never did it. And then when this special was coming along, I thought, I'm going to go back to that internet troll idea. And then I thought, wait a second. And because everybody was, dealing with the phone thing, I thought, okay, he's going to be troll looking like And so I used that same design, altered it a little bit so he's not so troll like, and he became this younger guy that looks a little bit like a troll. But he has on, typical clothing and stuff, and not a big tuft of hair like that, like a troll would. So that's how I came up with that.
Now that you mentioned that inspiration, I can totally see it, especially in the ears.
Right. Yeah.
So what would you say? You've been doing this for a while now. Would you say that there is any one character whose voice you find is the hardest to continue to recreate after all this time?
Physically, when I come up with a new character and a new voice, there is a certain range that I have to stay in so I don't kill myself, because I can do a whole bunch of different voices that are crazy voices. But then to do that, each character gets about 20 minutes on stage a night. To do that over and over, and I do about 10 shows a month, and it's 5 in a row, skip a week, and then 5 more the next week. I have to come up with a voice that I can repeat over and over again. So they may be, you can tell my voices, they come from the same bucket, just like Frank Oz, because he does Miss Piggy, he does Fozzie, he does what's wrong with me? Star Wars, Yoda.
Yoda.
So those are all, you can all kind of tell they're Frank Oz. So it's the same way with me. All my characters are a little bit similar, but I try and make them a little bit different. So I think the most difficult one physically is Ahmed, because he screams a lot. But you can ask a lot of rock and roll guys, the guys that, there's a certain way of learning to scream where you don't kill your voice. So I've done that. But yeah, he's the one that's most taxing.
I didn't see him on the lineup in the description for this special. Can we expect to see him back for this one, or is he sitting out this special?
He was definitely at the show that night, and he got a great response there in the show.
I love it. I love to hear it.
So I did not answer your question.
No, I mean that's totally fine.
Comedy Central or Paramount, the big company, has their say so in things. And we recorded him, and that night they said everything was just great.
Well, I look forward to seeing what comes of that ambiguous answer. Ahmed was, of course, one of the ones that got me hooked on you in the first place, as with many. So
this will be a subject that we may discuss later on.
There we go. And I love that this special too is going to come out around Thanksgiving, where a lot of families are getting together and trying to find something on TV they can watch together after or right before they go into a food coma. And so was that a discussion you had with Comedy Central, or was that something that they came up with on their own of this is a good time to air it?
No, we always come out, almost always with Comedy Central. It's been something that's come out in the fall because they embrace that. They sometimes do marathons on the day of my special where it's just all me all day long and a bunch of my specials, which is great. I love it. So this particular one, I said I'd love to do it in the fall, and they said let's do it Thanksgiving like usual, and I'm like, why not? Because that's the perfect time for, again, and also when I wrote this, and then of course when I performed it, and then in the editing, I have 7-year-old twin boys, and I wanted them to be able to sit down and watch it without any worries. So sure, there's some edge to it, but hopefully whatever those things are will go over the kids' heads. But I think this is one of the more safe ones where people can sit down and listen to it with grandma and the kids and not worry about it, but at the same time still be entertained by some contemporary stuff. So it was a very conscious, many conscious decisions on what the material was and when it was going to play on both Comedy Central's part and mine.
I love that you got to have that collaboration with them for this one, and I really look forward to when I can finally see the special. I always look forward to seeing your comedy come along. So, Jeff, that's all the questions I really had. So, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for the time. Yeah, I appreciate it.